Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 102 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, my friend. Very good. Right, episode 102. There's quite a bit to review. We will be doing, of course, the review in part one, and we will be speaking to our first guest, a man who's involved in a heavyweight clash, a rematch as well, on the Joshua versus Pulev undercard. Also, in part two, the funny name fighter segment will be returning, and also we will do the latest news. There's quite a bit of news, and of course the preview part before welcoming our second and final guest. That will be the show today. You probably knew that already though if you've listened before. Right, we're going to dive straight into the review, and we're going to start with a card that happened in Spain. It was just one fight really to mention. It was at the Polideportivo Vicente Trueba in Torrelavega, Cantabria. One fight to mention really on this bill. Sergio Martinez actually promoted this show. It's his own fighter, and Spain hasn't really got the most kind of best crop of fighters coming through. You think of Spanish fighters, you kind of think of the likes of Kiko Martinez, somebody like that. Well, this man is on the up. It's a man called Sergio Garcia. He's now 25-0 here. He made his opponent retire on his store after 7 rounds. He didn't come out for round 8. His opponent's name was Felice Moncelli. His record now 17-5 with 1 draw. And also Sergio Garcia put on the line his WBC Silver Super Welterweight title, and he retained that successfully. Moving over now to the Convention Center in Tucson, Arizona, USA. We're going to start with the undercard. Well, there wasn't too much on the undercard. There was one fight I think I want to mention. Oscar Valdez, 22-0, put his WBO World Featherweight title on the line against Genesis Servania. Now, we didn't really know too much about Servania. We knew he was obviously from the Philippines. He had a nice, 100% perfect record, 29-0 going into the fight. 2 undefeated fighters. Valdez actually tasted the canvas in round 4. And then, he did really well, to be honest, to get up and come out in round 5 and put his opponent down. So impressive stuff there from Oscar Valdez. But what I will say, Oscar Valdez has got a beautiful and spiteful left hook, but Valdez, he seems to walk away with his left hand down, and twice in that 4th round he was put down. The first time he got back up, and to his credit, he jumped straight back up. He didn't really seem hurt by it in the slightest, but then again, about 10 seconds later, he did the exact same thing. He just walks away with his left hand down. He was open to the right hook over the top. But yeah, on the on the flip side of that, in the 5th round, he came out in a kind of seek and destroy like mentality, and a huge left hook dropped the Filipino on his face in round 5. He got back up. He was on shaky legs, and he took a bit of a hammering, but still he stood there. He survived the round, and he just showed his toughness. So that guy there, Genesis Servania, very very tough guy. It was an exciting fight to a certain degree. It was non-stop action. Both guys, were in deep water early pretty much, and they didn't really seem to be fazed in possibly visiting the canvas again either, man. They really, they were fighting aggressively, not really worrying about what would be coming back, despite, as I said, they're touching the canvas. Both fighters were winging in big shots in the fight, some of them just missing, just whistling past either man's chin. But no, it was a really good fight for me, and the rightful winner was Oscar Valdez. Now, Oscar Valdez extends his record to 23-0. It was a unanimous decision over 12 rounds. And Genesis Servania, he put up a very good effort, but Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for him. He goes back to the drawing board now, 29-1, his first career blemish. Top of that bill, Gilberto Ramirez, 35-0, put his WBO World Super Middleweight title on the line against Jesse Hart. Now, Jesse Hart, we had him on the show a few weeks ago. Good talker, nice guy, all in all. And it was an intriguing fight going in. We knew that Gilberto Ramirez was, a very good fighter, very hard to beat fighter, not always the most eye-catching fighter. So what I will say, in the first round, Hart landed a very good shot. Ramirez took it well and fired straight back, whilst Hart was too slow bringing his guard back. He seemed like I think it was a good shot. I'm sure it was in the first or second round. He landed a really good shot, Hart. But I think it was the second round. It was the second round, yeah. It was when he got dropped, actually. So that was in round 2. He threw a really good shot, Hart. And like I say, when he brought his hands back, he was just too slow bringing his hands back. And he got caught and dropped. And his legs, they really betrayed him badly. Like, he got back up. And I actually thought the referee would probably stop it. I think the referee was quite lenient there, to be honest. And also, right after that, as soon as he got back up, Ramirez jumped on him straight away, but Hart showed some grit. He wasn't really tying Gilberto Ramirez up like he should have been, and he got through that second round there. Now, the third round was a close round. I actually edged that one to Hart. Ramirez landed a real big low blow as well during the fight. I think it may have been round 4. Jesse Hart really should have took a little bit longer. He had a little bit of a break. I think the referee gave him a few seconds, but really I think he should have took a little bit longer, seeing as he'd been down not too long before that. The thing about Ramirez as well, he was feinting a lot when he was doing that. It's a really effective role in his game, in my opinion. And again, Jesse Hart with his low guard, he kept being open for shots over the top, kept eating big power punches. And when Hart did keep a high guard, Ramirez was able to break it up with ease and land big hooks around the back of the guard too. Really poor defensive work from Hart, but Hart's counter-punching was really good, actually. I was quite surprised by that. But no, his right hand was just too low all fight, open to a big southpaw backhand over the top. And Hart landed a good amount of powerful shots, over the course of the fight. Some really powerful looking uppercuts, but Ramirez was taking them well as well. In round 9, Hart gave Ramirez a lot to think about, I feel. He was landing clean shots, but he just was being outworked a little bit, and it was kind of hard to score it, but I was being quite lenient towards Hart. I think the 11th round was a really good round for Hart as well. He seemed to continually land big shots on Ramirez, who for the first time in that fight actually slowed down dramatically. And I actually thought the 12th round was going to be a really big round in terms of how the fight could go. I wasn't too sure who was winning it at that stage, because at that point I had it very close. And the 12th round was obviously a really important round. Both guys went to war for the last 3 minutes as well. That made it really exciting. Both men really, it was the way that fights should be like. A world title fight like that, a man challenging a proper champion. That's what we want to see. We want to see both men give it their all, leave nothing outside the ring, leave it all in the ring. And I actually had the last round going to I kind of had it going to Hart, but then Ramirez fought back. So for me, I actually ended up giving that a 10-10. So on my scorecard, it was 1-1-4, 1-1-4. So I actually had that fight a draw. Obviously, the scorecards were read out in the end, and it was a unanimous decision win for Gilberto Ramirez. His record now 36-0. Jesse Hart now 22-1. So for me, on my card anyway, that knockdown really played a big part. It was a close fight though, and I can't really remember how the judges had it, but I'm sure it was quite close. I think that the knockdown played a part in it as well for them. I just can't remember the scorecards off the top of my head. But anyway, that's it for that card. We're going to try to move on a little bit quicker now. One fight happened at the Sugar House Casino in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Devin Haney, the young prospect, 18 years old. He's already 17-0. This was his 17th win here. He picked up a unanimous decision over 8 rounds against Enrique Tinoco. Good win there for Devin Haney. Very exciting young man. We've been raving about him for quite a while now. He's only been a pro for something like 21 months. He's already had like 17, 18 fights. So Yeah, amazing stuff there from Devin Haney. Moving over now to Belarus. One fight to mention over there at the Palace of Culture in Borisov. Sergei Rabchenko, 28-2. He's now 29-2. He picked up a TKO in round 2 against Sergei Krapshyla, whose record was 4-18 with 2 draws, now 4-19 with 2 draws. Again, Sergei Rabchenko, a man that used to be involved with Ricky Hatton. I think that the partnerships broke up now, but we got to mention that, of course. Now moving over to the Manchester Arena, formerly the MEN, Manchester, Lancashire, United Kingdom. We're going to start with the undercard. It wasn't a great undercard. Of course, it was free to stream on YouTube, which I did. Peter McDonough, 27-28 with 1 draw going in, took on Shane Singleton, 23-2 with 1 draw. Now, Shane Singleton, I remember watching him fight Bradley Skeet a couple months back, and he impressed me a little bit, but I think it was more so because Bradley Skeet was just trying to load up on him and try and get that big one-punch kind of knockout early, and he was just throwing singular shots. And while he was doing that, Shane Singleton happily accommodated that and was throwing in bunches and looking quite good, had a good jab and all that stuff. And, he was probably winning a few of those rounds against Skeet until Skeet obviously took him out. What I will say is I was very impressed by Peter McDonough, because for me, I thought that Shane Singleton would probably win this fight quite easily. So it was a really impressive win over 10 rounds there. That's a points win for Peter McDonough. His record now 28-28 with 1 draw. And Shane Singleton, that's a big loss. I'm not quite sure where he goes from here. His record now 23-3 with 1 draw. Also on that bill, Joe Murray took on Matty Fagan. Joe Murray was down in the 2nd round and also had a point deducted in the 8th round, but ultimately won on points over 10. So Joe Murray now 22-2, Matty Fagan 11-3. Also on the bill, Jimmy Kelly 22-1, fought for the vacant WBO Intercontinental Super Welterweight title against Stilian Kostov. His record was 21-7, but now it's 21-8 because Jimmy Kelly knocked him out in round 4. Kostov was also down in that first round, and I think he was down twice in the 4th. So good win there for Jimmy Kelly, to be honest. Really pleased for him. His record now 23-1. Josh Wow, he took on Don Broadhurst. Josh Wow 24-9 with 2 draws going in. Don Broadhurst 19-3 with 1 draw. It was for the British Bantamweight title, obviously Josh Wow's belt there. And Broadhurst was KO'd by a right hook in round 11. It was a decent fight while it lasted, but that's a good win there for Josh Wow. I actually had him the underdog going into that fight. His record now 25-9 with 2 draws. Don Broadhurst fails to get his 20th win. He picks up another loss. His record now 19-4 with 1 draw. And now the main event, Ayaz. I'm going to throw it over to you, but just before I do that, I just want to kind of basically say what I saw just briefly before I kind of break down the fight itself. Joseph Parker 23-0, of course, going in. Hughie Fury 20-0, both men undefeated. Both men, to some degree, I mean, I wouldn't say Joseph Parker's a prospect still, but both men are kind of a little bit unknown on that world level. They're still kind of building up. It sounds strange to say that about Parker, but Hughie Fury certainly. The WBO World Heavyweight title was on the line as well. The funny thing about this fight was the promoter of Joseph Parker. It's a team called Duco Events. We're quite pally with them actually, because of course Joseph's been on the show a couple of times. Duco were furious that Terry O'Connor, the referee, had been appointed to be the referee for this fight, and they were basically going crazy, saying it was unfair, especially because Terry O'Connor actually refereed Hughie Fury's 2 prior fights to this fight. So they were protesting about that, and what actually ended up happening was Terry O'Connor was replaced as referee, and he became the judge of the fight, or one of the 3 judges, of course. And straight away, everybody would kind of think, well, he's been placed in the judges panel instead of the referee. He's probably going to try and screw over Parker if it does go to the decision. And I did say I think it was going to go to the decision. I did say that, and it did. And unbelievably, 2 judges gave it 118-110 in favour of Joseph Parker. That's 10 rounds to 2. That's the same as what Adelaide Bird scored for Canelo over Triple G the other week. And the other judge gave it 114-114. So it was a majority decision in favour of Joseph Parker. He retains his WBO world title. So, Ayaz, what did you see of this fight? I obviously watched the whole thing as well, but I was actually watching it on a Periscope broadcast. I wasn't actually watching it on a proper TV or a proper laptop. I was watching it on my phone. Some guy was basically, videoing his TV. Shout out to Boxing Tribe UK. That was the channel I was watching the fight on. But yeah, from what I could see, I really thought Hughie won that fight quite convincingly. But I'm going to throw it over to you before I give it a slightly more detailed tactical breakdown. What did you make of it, Ayaz?
Right, I watched the fight on my laptop, and I'll tell you something about this, yeah? First of all, yeah, at the start, Hughie Fury, in my opinion, was nicking the rounds. Parker was coming in, and Hughie Fury was hitting with the uppercut, you can see, and with his right hand. Hughie Fury was winning the first 5 rounds, and then from there, Parker was roughing him up. So Parker was like hitting him with more shots. But obviously, with Parker, in my opinion, what he is, yeah, he starts off slow. Hughie Fury is a technical boxer. And what that basically means is that, for example, he'll try to box him in movement. And what happened in this fight, yeah, was that when Parker was coming in, Hughie Fury was hitting him with his uppercuts with his right hook. After round 5, in my opinion, was Parker, because Parker was actually roughing him up. After round 5, in my opinion, Parker was winning the fight. The thing with Parker, a lot of people, what he does is he gets, it's like boxing, he gets into a rhythm. And what Parker was doing, he was slowly getting into that rhythm, and then obviously he hurt a couple of times. He hurt Hughie a couple of times. Now, obviously Parker won the fight, and in my opinion, I wouldn't count it as a robbery. And those two judges that gave it 118, 110, I don't know what they're watching. I would probably give it 150, 113. That's what I personally would have given. But let me tell you something now. Now that Parker's won this fight, yeah, is he an elite world title fight? Is he a person that will beat the big guys? In my opinion, no. I'll tell you what, if he gets in with a Dillian White, I personally think Dillian White will beat him. Jarrell Miller will beat him. Wilder will knock him out. Joshua will knock him out. His performance, Parker's last few performances, since he's won the world title against Andy Ruiz, his performance have not been great. The one they showed on Sky Sports, and Dillian White was commentating, bad performance. This, again, a bad performance. He won't beat Dillian White. He won't beat Jarrell Miller. He won't beat Luis Ortiz. He won't beat Deontay Wilder. He won't beat Tyson Fury or Povetkin. I like Parker in his interviews. I like watching his interviews, but we're seeing him fight. I personally think he'll get knocked out if he fought one of the best good fighters like White. But like I said, Hughie Fury, Hughie Fury's young. He's only 20. Is it 22 or 23?
I think he's just turned 23. I think. Yeah.
Yes, Hughie Fury's still young. So what he'll do, he'll come back, and he'll win a world title in the future. That's what I personally think.
Yeah, I mean, the way I saw the fight, again, as I said, I was watching it on my phone from someone else's TV, and the person I was watching it, on their channel. The person was kind of a Hughie Fury fan. He's an Irish fella. But from what I could see, and, granted, it wasn't the best picture, but I just saw Hughie winning that fight. I mean, as you said there, he was boxing and moving. He was boxing off the back foot. It was effective. He was using his range and distance well. And remember, I actually picked Joseph Parker to win on points on the Prediction League last week. And I just thought that when you've gone with Joseph Parker to win on points, you do actually want that to happen. It can, you want to, this Prediction League is quite serious. I did want that to happen. So, I just couldn't give it to Parker though. And those two scorecards were just outrageous. It was terrible. It was shocking that one of those guys was Terry O'Connor. But I don't think it was a fair decision for me. I think I don't know what it was, but Peter Fury didn't really seem too upset with it. And people have said, he's a professional man. But I was raging at the time. And, I mean, I was shocked. When they said, one judge has given it a draw, I was thinking, that's a bit dodgy. Then they went, okay, and the other two judges scored about 118, 110. I was thinking, wow, that's, obviously Hughie's got it, but even that's a little bit wide, maybe just a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. But to actually have it to Parker, straight away I thought, no, these two judges have written the wrong name down. There's no way that's happened. Hughie was countering him pretty much the whole fight. His movement was so good. And what I will say about Hughie as well, he took some big punches flush on the chin, and they did not bother him at all. I've said it before, Parker's not the biggest one-punch boxer, but accumulatively over the rounds, he can hurt you, and especially if he throws, or throws a combination and you get hit with that. And I just think that Hughie Fury did a phenomenal job of boxing and moving, and unfortunately, because he was on the back foot all the time, it maybe gave these judges the impression, or not just these judges, other people that watched the fight and scored it to Joseph Parker, maybe the aggression, the thing that he was always the man coming forward, taking centre of the ring, maybe that was what influenced it, because I just could not see it for me. I really couldn't see it. So for me, it was pretty outrageous. Hughie Fury's been quite inactive, and obviously this was his shot. He was in a mandatory position for it as well, and I'm not quite sure where he goes from here. I know that Peter Fury said that they're going to be keeping him very busy next year, but I just don't know. I feel it's a great shame for Hughie Fury. I feel really gutted for him, and like I said there, I didn't really finish my sentence there. People saying, I was saying Peter Fury's not. He didn't seem to be too upset by it, and people are saying, well, he's professional. I understand that, and I'm not Hughie Fury's dad, but I was raging, and everybody was raging. Tyson Fury was raging. I don't know. Maybe Hughie could have thrown some more right hands, but I think he did enough to win clearly in my book. But that's it for that fight anyway. Of course, Joseph Parker retains his heavyweight title. Shocking or not, you decide. His record now 24-0, Hughie Fury 20-1. One fight that we missed out, actually, I just remembered now, we missed out a fight on the Gilberto Ramirez and Jesse Hart card. Michael Conlan, he proceeded to 4-0. He had his man down in round 2 and knocked him out in round 2. That's a TKO victory for Conlan. His opponent, by the way, was Kenny Guzman. He was also unbeaten in 3 fights. His record now 3-1. 2 seconds before the right hook finishing punch, Teddy Atlas, the commentator, actually said that Conlan doesn't have much power. And as soon as Conlan landed the punch, it was one big, it was a big one-punch knockdown. It wasn't accumulative or anything like that. Teddy Atlas quickly tries to justify what he said, and he claimed it was an accumulation of the shots. Give it a rest, Teddy. It was a big shot. It was a big knockdown. Credit to the opponent. He got back up, and the referee somewhat prematurely waved it off, but it was one-way traffic through that second round. The opponent was starting to get busted up. It was getting a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit one-sided, but Teddy Atlas, boy oh boy, where are you? Moving over now to York Hall, Bethnal Green, London. In fact, just before we move over there, we should do the scores, Ayaz. Last week you went with Hughie Fury to get a points win. I went with Joseph Parker to get a points win, and of course our listeners, they went with Fury to win on points as well. So unfortunately the listeners gain no points there. I gain a point for the Parker win on points, and Ayaz, you don't gain a point because you picked Fury. So yeah, +1 for me there. Moving over now to York Hall, Bethnal Green. Couple fights to mention on this bill. Miles Shinkwin, friend of the show, he moved to 14 professional wins. He's also got 2 losses as well. It was a 6-round points win against Josip Perkovic. His record 4-2, now 4-3 with 1 draw. Also on the bill as well, Wadi Camacho, he moved to 18 wins inside 25 fights. His record now 18-7. He defended successfully his Southern Area Cruiserweight crown against Ozzy Jervia, whose record is now 4-4. It was a points win over 10 rounds there for Wadi Camacho. Moving over now to one fight that massively went under the radar. It was quite surprising. I didn't even know it was happening. It was over in Hungary, in Budapest, at the Budapest Fight Centre. Controversial flyweight character Prince Patel, his record 4-0 with 1 draw. He took on a man called Christian Horvath, whose record was 0-10. Now, I've got no idea why Prince Patel was even fighting in Hungary. I just saw it and thought, hang on a minute, what's that? Is there a different Prince Patel? No, I don't know what's going on there, but again, he picks up a knockout in the first round, so a decent win there for Prince Patel, but again, his opponent didn't really come to offer too much, and I didn't see the fight at all. It was very hard to find that one. Moving over now to the Forum in Inglewood, California, USA. Obviously, the Jorge Linares and Luke Campbell card. The undercard really wasn't up to much. What I will say, Luke Campbell's father passed away a couple of weeks before the fight, and he didn't mention it to nobody. I don't even think Eddie Hearn knew. He just really wanted to try and focus on what was ahead of him, and he didn't want Linares' camp to find that out, to think it could be some kind of weakness in his game. Credit to Luke Campbell for getting in there and showing grit. It was a really good fight for me. This is the way I saw it, though, in my honest opinion. And again, this is one where I picked Linares to win on points. That's what happened, so I gain a point there. As you went with Linares on points as well, so you gain a point there. And the listeners went with Linares by knockout. So unfortunately, this week, the listeners haven't picked up any points. They've missed 2 opportunities, 0 points. As you've picked up a point from 2 opportunities, and myself, I've picked up 2 points from 2 opportunities. So it's been a good week for my predictions. In the Linares fight, for me, Linares kept fighting very well in the second half of pretty much every round. So he was doing that kind of clever, experienced moves there to try to steal a round on the scorecards. He was always trying to finish the round really well and steal it. And that's a very experienced thing to do. Obviously, we know that probably the best at that is Arthur Abraham. Obviously, Campbell was put down in the second round, a decent knockdown. It didn't seem to be too hurt, but he was cut as well. It really looked like he was out of his depth, to be honest. Credit to him, though. He got up after that second round knockdown, and he fought really, really well for me. I actually had him winning a number of the rounds. He seemed to just, I don't know, he seemed to just get into his groove. It was like that knockdown woke him up a little bit. But no, he had an awful start to the fight, and for me, the actual knockdown was a big point of the fight, a big factor in the fight, I should say. And I actually had it 1-1-4 to 1-1-3 to Linares at the end of the fight. So again, if that knockdown wasn't there, and even if Linares still won that round 10-9, I would have had the fight a draw. But for me, the rightful winner was Linares. I know that Victor Lachlan was over there, and he actually gave his scorecard in. I think it was 1-1-5 to 1-1-3 for Luke Campbell. I think that's a little bit too generous there, to be honest. I couldn't really see Luke Campbell nicking it, and I was trying to be quite fair with him, really. A split decision win ultimately over 12 rounds for Jorge Linares. His record now 43-3. Luke Campbell now 17-2. What I will say, though, is in a strange way, I mean, he was really good, Linares, like he has been recently. He seems to be, a brilliant fighter once again, despite going through a few sticky patches a few years back. But his performance was really good, and even though Luke Campbell fought really well, and I've criticised Luke Campbell in the past for being a little bit overrated, I actually think, that performance there made me even more excited for the proposed showdown between Jorge Linares and Mikey Garcia. That really made me pumped for that, so I hope that does end up coming off. But yeah, we're going to try to get through this a little bit quicker now. Moving over now to the Hartman Arena in Park City, Kansas, USA. One fight to mention on this bill, Zalil Zhang, his record 17-0. He took on a journeyman, really, even though he's got a winning record. His name is Byron Polly. His record 30-21 going in. I think he'd been stopped maybe 17 or 18 times out of those 21 times. Of course, he's also got one draw on his record, but Byron Polly, he's been stopped by Charles Martin, he's been stopped by a bunch of guys, can't really remember some of the names now, but he's been fighting for quite a while, and he's been stopped by so many decent fighters. Like anybody with a decent name that's been in with him has stopped him mostly in the first round, so it was no different here. Zalil Zhang now 18-0, TKO in the first round for him. Byron Polly now 30-22 with one draw. We didn't really learn too much there from Zhang. Obviously, decent amateur. I want to see him now in some big fights. I think he's world ranked with a WBO, but none of the other sanctioning bodies. But he's a big 6'6" southpaw from China, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with him. Moving over now to the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, USA. This was the ITV box office card. It was actually free though. Right, I'm going to mention a couple of the fights here. Keith Tapia, his record 17-1 going in. He took on Latif Coyote, who, if I'm not mistaken, was out the ring for about, I can't remember now, but he was out the ring for quite a long time, Latif Coyote. Coyote's a tough guy as well, man. Really tough guy. His record 21-1 going in. Keith Tapia did quite well, to be honest. He impressed me. Coyote was put down in round 6 as well. Keith Tapia, we know he's quite heavy-handed. yeah, it was a unanimous decision over 10 rounds. Wasn't really the most thrilling or, exciting encounter, really. Also, it was untelevised, which I was a bit upset about, but Nonito Donaire picked up his 38th career win. His record now 38-4. He also picked up the vacant WBC silver featherweight title against Ruben Garcia Hernandez, whose record was 22-2 with one draw. He's actually a decent fighter, Hernandez, so that was a good win there for Donaire. And now the main event, Junior Dulticos, 21-0, took on Dmitry Kudryashov, 21-1. Both men can put you to sleep with either hand. It was for the WBA World Cruiserweight title. Yes, I mean, I was really excited for this fight going in, and it was actually the first time I've watched Dulticos live. Kudryashov was very, very sloppy, seemed to be very slow. He took a lot of shots early on in that first round, and he wasn't really able to get into his groove at all. Who knows what would have happened if it went long, but Kudryashov landed some good body shots as well, which I will say, some sneaky ones actually. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to unleash any on the chin of Dulticos, which I would have liked to see happen just to see how good Dulticos' chin is. But credit to Dulticos, two heavy-handed beasts in there, and Dulticos got it over early and very quickly and very impressively in the second round. So a really, really big win there for Dulticos. His record now 22-0 with 21 knockouts, and Dmitry Kudryashov, once again, he's in a fight where somebody gets knocked out, whether it's himself or his opponent. He's now 21-2, and every single fight has ended within the distance. So still, he will be a very exciting fighter, I'm sure, in the near future. That man can certainly bang regardless of what his defensive skills are like. And moving over now to the final bill to mention from the reviewing part of the show. It actually happened earlier this week. It was on Tuesday this week, a couple of days ago, at the Cannery Casino and Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. This was on Tuesday the 26th of September. 1 month exactly after the McGregor-Mayweather, but that's another situation. There was one fight on the bill to mention, Ledwan Barthélemy. That's actually the brother of Rances Barthélemy, the former world champion. I'm not even sure if he's got a belt at the moment, but anyway, his younger brother Ledwan Barthélemy was 13-0 going in against Eduardo Ramirez, who was 20-0 with 2 draws, and it ended up being a split draw over 10 rounds. So Barthélemy there, a minor blemish, and Eduardo Ramirez, the third draw inside 23 fights for him. Both men wouldn't have wanted that, but I'm sure they can both come back with a win in their next fights. But that's really it for the reviewing. I'm very sorry if I've been a little bit too long-winded with that. There was a lot to go over. It's now time to welcome, before we wrap up part 1, it's time to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former Commonwealth Heavyweight title challenger, Mr. Dave Allen. Dave, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Hey, it's always good to have you back. So, Dave, we last spoke in April. It's been a little while. It was in the build-up to the fight against Lenroy Thomas for the Commonwealth title, as I mentioned. You came out of that fight without the result you wanted, of course. And I've got to be honest, when I watched it, I actually thought you won that fight. What went wrong for you on the night, and what did you make of the decision when it got announced? Did you think you won that fight?
Well, first and foremost, the result, I anticipated before there was called out that I would get it. I knew it was a close fight. Being the home fight and the advantages that brings, fairly or unfairly, I believed I would have got it, at the time. I knew it wasn't the greatest fight when I was in there, and it was scrappy. It wasn't a great fight. It was hard. It was pretty physical. Lenroy's pretty strong. It hit a little harder than I bargained for, but yeah, I thought I was going to get it. When I didn't get it, I was disappointed. Obviously, it was over to Lenroy. See how happy he was. I was kind of like, right, shake the man's hand. This is his moment. He was seen to be the better man by 2 out of the 3 judges, shake his hand and let him enjoy his moment, So I then watched it back. I've watched it back a couple of times. I've watched it back a lot more recently, with the fight happening again. And yeah, I think it was probably a fair result, I scored it maybe 6 rounds apiece or 7-5 to Lenroy. There was maybe a couple of even rounds in there somewhere. The point took off him was a bit harsh, I felt. The knockdown that wasn't counted. I don't think it was a knockdown. I think all in all, I think it was a fair result, and I'm glad that he got the result as well. I'm glad he got that. I'm glad he got the benefit of the doubt as the away fighter, and he got the result because he turned me into a different man now. If I'd got the result, I'd probably kept on plodding on, thinking, I can fight at these levels, not in 100% condition, and I'd carried on until I got beat up again like I did with Ortiz, So it was a blessing in disguise, I believe.
Yeah, that's very honest of you to say there how you saw the fight when watching it back. Going into that fight again, we didn't really know. I'm talking kind of as, I'm talking for boxing fans a little bit here. We didn't really know too much about the guy, and, automatically having, a connection with you, I kind of had him down as the bad guy. I didn't want him to win, and only when we kind of heard from him after the fight, he seemed like a really nice guy. But boxing-wise, did you underestimate him a little bit, do you think? Because I know you were very confident going in.
Yeah, I underestimated him massively. I knew he'd be a good fighter, and I knew he's very experienced. He's been fighting nearly as long as I've been alive. He's very experienced. Had a lot of amateur fights. He's been in all the camps sparring. I've been in a few camps sparring. He's been in them all himself. He's been in more so because he's older. But I knew he'd be a good fighter. I knew he'd be defensively sound. With all the sparring in all these camps, you become a very sound defensive fighter because. If you get put on your back too many times, you don't get asked back. So you learn how to look after yourself. I knew that. I've seen his fighters with Dominic Breezy-Allen and Fedosov, and he looked like he had a bit of quit in him, So I went in with a game plan really of walk him down and he'll quit eventually. And I took my foot off the gas in training, and in the fight, he wasn't the kind. I believe he will quit, again. Once you quit, I still believe once you quit once, you'll quit again. But I didn't put anywhere near enough. I didn't put enough shots together to make him get like that. I wasn't fit enough. I wasn't in condition. It was a terrible performance. I think that's, I put in a few bad performances in my career already, but I believe that was by far the worst. On the biggest stage as well. It was, I'm very lucky to get this chance again after that tonight. I watched it back, and like I say, I only watched it a couple of times at first before the fight got made again, because it was that bad on my part. It was really, really bad. So it's difficult to say. I believe the best Lenroy Thomas turned up on that night, and he beat the worst me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And the last question on that, because it is a bit of a negative, how badly, Dave, were you affected mentally by the loss? Because if I'm not mistaken, did you come off of social media for a little bit just to sort of take a bit of time out?
Yeah, I came off for a little while. It hurt massively. It was like, it just felt, May 27th at Bramall Lane. I just felt like that was going to be my night. It was 33 years to the month. My dad boxed there for the last time as a pro. My dad was there. It just felt like everything was there on that night. It was written for everything on that night to be for it to happen, and it didn't. And the worst thing about it is that was my own doing. If I'd have put the work in the gym, if I'd have just kept doing what I was doing the first couple of weeks of camp before I saw Lenroy, and then it would have come together. And that was the hardest thing to do, with the fact that it was my own. I cost myself, If I'd be Lenroy Thomas, now I'd be looking. There's some massive fights out there in the heavyweight division, for myself. So yeah, that hurt, and then a couple of weeks after the fight, I was all right with it. I thought, what, I hope I will get my chance again. I was down to fight in Preston. My dad fell ill, and other stuff, and I took some time off social media. Got stuck into a little bit of training. I bought Tom Dallas, and then it was just a case of waiting for a date, and then as soon as before everyone knows that, I know what's going on. I knew I was going to fight Lenroy a little bit before it becomes common knowledge. So since that point, I've been in the gym. I've been in the gym 2-3 times a day, 6 days a week, running, eating correctly, and if I don't meet Lenroy Thomas next time, I will have to shake his hand and say he's a better man, because this is going to be the best me that I can be. Right now, I'll be a lot better fighter in the future, I believe, but this is the best me that I can be for this fight.
And 2 months after that fight, as we said there, for 2 months after the Lenroy fight, as you just touched on as well, you fought Tom Dallas. Obviously, you scored a 3rd round knockout in that fight. How important was that win for you, again, mentally? Did you feel that you needed to get a win before getting back in there?
Yeah, all that fight was a case of getting a win, because I know coming off a loss and that, it's difficult to get a decent fight. I know if I had a win, I'm not sure if you can even fight for a major title coming off a loss. So it was about just getting a win, getting back in the ring as soon as possible, trying to get myself, just my weight just blowing up a little bit, getting myself a little bit of interest to get back in the gym and get back training. It was going out. It was just, as daft as it seemed, it was just something. Obviously, we had to get a win, but it was just something to do. We went to Essex for the weekend. I was on first, so I got out there and I watched a good night of boxing. I'm a big boxing fan anyway. So yeah, it was just about getting a win and getting back in the swing of things and getting my head on the job. And at that point, we didn't know about the Lenroy rematch, but around that point, David Hayes called me and offered me the Joe Joyce fight. So I was never going to take that fight, but I knew there was things in the pipeline. As always, as a heavyweight, with the big names, there was always going to be opportunities. So the opportunity that I wanted, the Lenroy Thomas rematch, luckily has come up. But I knew there was going to be a big fight on the horizon. So yeah, we got the win and we got on the path to getting in good shape.
And just to take you back there, Dave, did you say that at the time of the Tom Dallas fight you wasn't aware of the rematch happening at that stage?
No, I wasn't aware at that point, no.
Okay.
At that point, we was just, wasn't sure what was happening with Eddie at Matchroom. We didn't really know. Eddie, after the fight at Bramall Lane, Eddie came to me and, he said that wasn't great and whatever else. And I said, yeah, I know. We had a tiny little bit of a talk. And he said, you'll get another chance, but I'm not really heard from Eddie, so I wasn't sure what was happening. So I went down to fight Tom Dallas and just kind of, like I said, get a win, put myself in the shot window, just get myself a bit of get myself going again, and if the worst comes to worst, and we wasn't going to get back on the matchroom, so we was going to keep doing that. We was going to keep going around paying for our own opponents and getting some wins until we could get back on a decent show with a decent opponent. So yeah.
And obviously, as we touched on as well, the rematch is now set for October 28th in Wales on the Joshua versus Pulev undercard, an even bigger card than the last one, to be honest. How happy are you to be fighting on another huge bill?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. A lot of people tell me, some people tell me in a nice fashion, some people tell me in a not so nice way, but to be on these shows, these aren't even arena shows, these are stadium shows. And does my ability warrant a position on these shows, from what I've shown in the ring so far? Probably not, but here we are anyway. And it's my job this time to take this chance and take it with our fans and put on a good performance, impress, beat Lenroy up, stop him, win the Commonwealth title, and show that I am worthy of being on these kind of shows and set up some big fights and maintain my place on these kind of shows, on these undercards, on these anti-Joshua undercards, in these stadiums. I know that it's there. I know the ability is there. So that's what it's all about. This is my last chance. I don't perform against Lenroy, it's a long way back. I won't stop boxing. If I lose against Lenroy, it's either Dubois or Joe Joyce probably next. And if I beat Lenroy, as daft as it seems, there's probably easier fights on the horizon for more money. It's crazy how boxing works, but here we are.
And the recent photos I've seen of yourself, Dave, you look like you're in the best shape I've seen you in. And, of course, we're still a couple of weeks away from the fight anyway. Without giving too much away, what can you do differently in this fight? And what have you done differently in the build-up to get in that good shape that you're in?
I think the main two things have been the work on the road, the running, the track work, all that kind of stuff. Running's very important. I didn't really like running because it's hard work, innit? So didn't do any of that. The running, the circuits in the gym, I do them with flyweights and bantamweights and welterweights and light middleweights, and it's hard, but just all around fitness and conditioning this time. Last time I was really hitting the pads, just really hitting the pads, doing a little bit of sparring. And the mad thing is, when I boxed Lewis Ortiz and I did my tongue, I couldn't talk for a couple of weeks. I couldn't eat for even longer, and I couldn't spar for the fight in Hull with the Polish plumber, for the David Howe fight. I'm not sure that I actually sparred before the fights because of my tongue. So, leading on to the Lenroy fight, I think I only sparred 20 rounds in 6 months before the Lenroy fight. You know, there's no excuses made at all. You know, I was very poor, and I don't put it down to one factor. I put it down to all these factors added together. You know, mainly through fault of my own, but I was only sparring 20 rounds in 6 months before the Lenroy fight. I wasn't sharp. My timing was off. You know, I was missing by a mile. And whatever else. But you know, for this fight, we're starting to spar 3 times a week now. And I think that's a massive key as well as the all-round fitness and conditioning work on the track, in the gym with the circuits, and I think also vitally as important, equally as important as all them things, is my diet. My diet has changed massively, and I think that's the key. I think that them 3 things there, you know, them 3 things now have been corrected, and I think they're the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, we certainly hope those things are the key. The last question on this fight before I move on to a couple of other interesting kind of matchups in the heavyweight division. Sometimes I ask fighters for predictions, Dave, and sometimes they tell us, sometimes they don't. I know that you're a very honest man, sometimes a little bit too honest for your own good, but instead of asking you for a prediction, I'd rather ask you, how sure are you that you can avenge this defeat and become Commonwealth champion on October 28th? If you had to put a percentage on it, where would you be with that?
No, nothing in life is definite, but I would say I'm 100% confident. You know, people say 110. I'm weird because I don't believe in anything over 100. You know, 100%. I used to be a supply maths teacher at times, so if I say anything more than 100, the kids would laugh at me. But I'm just massively confident. You know, and I'm but more so confident in just the fact that, you know, if Lenroy beats me again or whatever else, you know, that's it. I can. The reason why last time bothered me so much is because he beat me and it wasn't the best me. You know, Dylan White beat me. I wasn't in great condition. I didn't have time to prepare. The same with Ortiz, even more so. But on them 2 nights, I knew at that point in time I lost two men that were just better than me at that point. You know, the new 2 months was too experienced. They were too good for me. Lenroy Thomas, I believe I lost. That's the only fight in my career I've ever lost due to my own fault, you know, not training and whatever else. So I'm 100% confident that this is going to be the best me, and I'm equally as confident that I'll win this fight this time.
Excellent. I'm happy, very, very happy to hear you say that. Now, moving on to a couple of other things. Hughie Fury versus Joseph Parker. It happened on the weekend, of course. If I'm not mistaken, you're one of the minority that thought that that Joseph Parker was the rightful winner. Am I wrong, or did you go with Parker?
Yeah, I thought Parker won the fight. Yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that at all?
I just don't think. I don't believe the criteria should be you've got to take the belt off the champion. If you win more rounds than the champion, you win the fight. But I think just looking at it, you know, a lot of it's stylistic as well. You know, if you appreciate some nice back foot boxing and whatever else, you probably scored the fight with Fury. If you appreciate someone going forward trying to make a fight, the aggressor, you scored it for Parker, and that's how I saw it. I don't think. If I think about the fight now, I can't think of it really more than 5 scoring punches that was landed by either man. Hughie looked, you know, the defensiveness, the movement of Hughie Fury is absolutely fantastic. He's as good as any weight in the division, I believe. You know, that's what his dad preaches, he teaches, and he does it fantastically. But I don't believe the jab. I don't believe the knuckle was turned over. I believe it was a bit of a slap with the back of the hand, and I think maybe the judges weren't scoring that. He didn't really throw too many shots with his right hand throughout the whole fight. And I think 118, 110 was unfair because that makes it look like a one-sided fight. But at the same time, the rounds were really hard to score because at times there wasn't a scoring punch landed by either fighter in the round. So he was the aggressor in that case. I'm not sure. I just thought Joe Parker just looked the busier, you know. And in rounds where there's not a scoring punch landed, I don't know. Do you give it to him? I don't know. That was the way. That was my criteria for scoring a fight. So that's the way I would have to have gone.
And a man that you fought before, Mr. Luis Ortiz, he will be challenging Deontay Wilder for the WBC heavyweight title. Really interesting fight. Some people saying it's Wilder's first proper test. How do you see that one playing out?
I think Luis Ortiz is the most experienced, best boxer in the heavyweight division. His judging of distance, his shot selection, is fantastic. It's a case of whether if Father Time has called with him, because the man that beat Bryant Jennings doesn't look like the same man that fought Malik Scott and myself. Now, whether that's Malik Scott being fantastically defensive and just being super negative, and the fact that I'm a bit better than people think, I'm quite smart defensively after the years of sparring the best heavyweights around and having a pretty decent chin. Whether we made him look bad, I'm not sure, but it depends if Father Time's got with him. The Luis Ortiz that beat Bryant Jennings, even though I'm likely saying maybe the same man that fought me, Malik Scott, I don't know, but on that performance, you would think he's gonna get. Luis Ortiz for me is too good to be in a 12-round fight and not hit the other man. And Deontay Wilder for me is very suspect around the chin. His punch distance is very suspect. So I've got to edge towards Luis Ortiz because I think he's going to be too clever for Wilder. I don't think Wilder's got the punch distance, to hold these shots and stand up to him. I see it as a very 3 or 4 round fight. I think Luis Ortiz may be a little bit vulnerable himself when he gets hit. Because age is definitely not on his side. When I was throwing the shots, he was a bit wary. I don't know. I would edge towards an Ortiz stoppage, but a Wilder knockout wouldn't be the most surprising in the world because I think he's a devastating puncher.
Yeah, certainly an intriguing one, but hopefully some questions are answered on that part. And also the main event for the card that you're fighting on, Joshua versus Pulev. Now, a lot of people are unhappy about the fight happening. I'm actually one of the small amount of people that think it's actually a decent fight. Well, in my opinion anyway. Pulev won't be one of these guys that kind of believe in Joshua's hype. I don't think he's going to respect him too much before the first bell. How do you see that one playing out, Dave, or is it a complete easy win for Joshua?
I think it's a good fight as well. I think Pulev is a very experienced man. He's a very strong man. He's very tough. I know everyone's just looking at the Klitschko fight and seeing how Klitschko dealt with him. I think Pulev, he hurt Klitschko with a jab in the first minute of the fight, and I think Klitschko felt his strength, and Klitschko went on the attack and he caught him with the left hook. That one shot, I don't believe in lucky shots, but if that shot, without that shot, that fight was a totally different man. I think Pulev's possibly a top 5 man in the division, apart from Joshua, Tyson if he's still about. Maybe Wilder and Ortiz are going favourite against him, but there's not really many I'll pick comfortably against him. He's a good fighter. He's been about for years. He's been in the amateur game since the 90s. He's very experienced. He can punch. He's very strong. I think Joshua wins. I think after seeing him get up off the canvas against Klitschko and coming back and stopping him, I think he ticked all the boxes that were left to tick. That makes him the number 1 man right now. He can punch. He's fast. He showed he's got the bottle. He showed he can take a punch. He did go down, but it was a cracking shot and he got back up. He showed he can do the 12 rounds. He showed a lot in that fight. So for me, he's the 1 man right now. But I think Pulev, really for me, is as good a test as he's going to get right now. Ortiz maybe punches harder than Pulev, but is he as strong and as tough as Pulev? I'm not sure. Wilder hits harder, but again, is he as strong and tough? Parker, is he as experienced and is he as good as Pulev? I'm not sure. So I think it's a good fight. I think it's a perfect fight for Joshua right now. I think it's one that he should win if he's on his game, but it's one that he's definitely got to be wary of and take very seriously.
Yeah, I think Pulev's got a fantastic jab as well, and Vladimir Klitschko, I tell you about that, within the first few seconds he felt that. And finally, Dave, a man that we had on our show a couple of weeks back, a man that you've been heavily linked with for the better part of a year now, really, Ian Lewison. He takes on Joyce the week before your fight. I know that you know both men very well. How do you see that one playing out? It's a tough ask for Ian.
I sparred with Joe a lot over the years, and he's very fit. He's just relentless, But if there was one heavyweight out there that is dangerous early, it's Ian Lewison. I think it's a ridiculous fight that they took for Joe this early. I know he's 31, 32, but there's still no massive rush. You can still get 2 or 3 fights in a short space of time and then fight Ian Lewison if that's what you want to do. I think Joe, Joe has to go in as a favourite, but Ian's very experienced. He's very tough. It's not like he's a big puncher that's vulnerable himself. He's very tough himself. Joe is not the biggest puncher in the world. He's just relentless. He will just keep going all night. But Ian, if Ian doesn't get a draw out there in 2 or 3 rounds, I see Joe stopping Ian late. Just with sheer work rate and just landing all the punches. He is the biggest puncher in the world, but if you keep getting hit, water keeps hitting the stone. The stone eventually will break, and so Ian's got to come. I think he's going to come in light and sharp, light and sharp, not so he can do the 10, 12 rounds, just so he can stick that shot on early. Joe is a slow starter. He has been down and stopped in the amateurs early, so it's not a fight I'd rule Ian out of. I'd never ever rule Ian out of a fight if he's fit. Ian fit and ready is dangerous for any heavyweight in the world, I believe. Look at him against Hoffman in the prize fighter. It would have been the biggest surprise if it would get shot there, really. But if I have to make a decision, if I have to make a choice, you'd have to say Joe. You have to say Joe would probably stop Ian late. That'd be my final call on it. But yeah, I think it's mad matchmaking. I said I was offered the fight first. We didn't take it. I've got a few more options than Ian, luckily. And then I went on to ask Ian. They're very obviously David Hayes very confident with him, but we'll see. If he beats Ian, where's he go from there? Stepping up from me, and there's going to be no easy fights.
No, not at all. But certainly one I'll be watching anyway. Finally, Dave, anything that you want to add at all before we let you go?
No, I just want to say anyone that's listening, who supports me, thank you very much. Crazy, we're here. I'm back in Cardiff fighting Lenroy again because. It's what the majority of the people have wanted, and so yeah, just thank you very much for everyone supporting me, and yeah, that's it. So thank you everyone. Thank you to yourself as well for having me back on.
It's my pleasure, mate. Listen, Dave, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. You know that. Best of luck for the 28th of October. We will be pulling for you. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch up sometime after you avenge that loss and capture that classy piece of silverware, my friend.
Nice one, mate. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the preview part. But before we get into that, we're going to go over to Ayaz with the latest boxing news. And then we're also going to jump into the returning funny name fighter segment, which has been away for a little while. So we're going to be returning with that. But firstly, Ayaz, bring in the latest news, please.
Boxing legend Jake LaMotta has died.
Yes, it's a very sad loss, but unlike some of the other losses that we've had in boxing on this show, we've talked about many of them, it was one that was imminent a little bit. I don't want to, I want to be quite careful what I'm saying, but, he lived to be 95 years old, which is just unbelievable. I mean, we'd all love to live that long. I guess he probably lived the life outside the ring, but no, what a fantastic fighter in his heyday. He brought us so many amazing fights, and for a long, long time, he was, everybody talked about him. He's the oldest surviving world champion for a long time. Like everybody was saying, there's no boxer that was currently alive that was as old as him or anywhere near that age. So credit to him. His record ended up obviously 83 wins, 19 losses and 4 draws, and along the way he took on so many fantastic fighters. Took on Sugar Ray Robinson as well. That's some people say the best of all time, But no, he shared the ring with many a great fighter, and he was one of those old school guys that just fought every other few weeks, you know. Sometimes I think even a little bit more frequent than that. I'm not going to claim to be a huge historian on him, but of course, remember the film Raging Bull with Robert De Niro? That was based on Jake LaMotta. So yeah, he was a fantastic fighter for the Italian American people as well. So yes, it's a sad loss, but what a life he lived.
Andre Ward has retired from boxing.
Yes, it's come as a bit of a shock. Of course, after the 2 fights with Kovalev, it was a brilliant way to end your career, I suppose, and retire and walk away, especially stopping Kovalev in that second fight, despite what you thought if the stoppage was early or whatever. But no, for me, it's a great time, but it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's hard to kind of gauge when someone should retire, because usually it gets to the point where you see them in a fight and they get badly bashed up, and you're like, nah, you know, they've gone past it now. They're not as good as what they was. They need to retire. But it's not, you know, it's nowhere near that point for Andre Ward, and it's weird because it was such a shock. It's like Floyd Mayweather's quite clearly slowed down in his recent years, kind of thing. In his last few years, he'd shown signs of slowing down, whereas Andre Ward, he's still as good as what he always has been. He's still he's not relatively young. He's not relatively old though. He's been in the game for a while, and he was a fantastic amateur and obviously a fantastic professional, as I say. But no, it's a little bit surprising for me. I think he had many fights left in him, but for me, my gut feeling, I think he'll probably come back. I think he'll probably come out of retirement. But listen, if he doesn't, then what a fighter he's been. I mean, he's a certain Hall of Famer in my opinion, and he just about fought everybody, really. I mean, the only fight that I would have liked to seen that didn't happen with him in recent years anyway was probably the Gennady Golovkin fight, but they weren't, they were in different weights at the time when everybody was talking about it, so it would have been made at some kind of catch weight, which I'm not really a fan of anyway. But no, phenomenal fighter, and we wish him all the very best in his retirements. But yes, it's opened up the light heavyweight division with him relinquishing his titles. And we're gonna have to wait and see what happens next.
Carl Frampton has signed a promotional deal with Frank Warren.
Yes, that's a little bit surprising. I mean, I did say to you when it all happened, Ayaz, I did say that I thought Carl Frampton was gonna probably sign with MTK or probably go stateside, maybe to Bob Arum or something like that. He's teamed up with MTK for some sort of contract. I'm not quite sure what it all is, but yeah, promotionally he's now with Frank Warren. They've got a good platform at the moment. Everybody's talking about their events, and we'll have to wait and see if it's a good move for him financially. But no, it's exciting. That's what I will say at this stage.
Danny Jacobs has signed a promotional deal with Matchroom Boxing.
Yes, Matchroom have decided to go stateside. They're going to be, if I'm not mistaken, putting on a few shows out there. They're gonna have some offices out there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, really. I mean, it's brilliant for UK fans who are going to get to see these international boxers perhaps coming over here to fight. But not only that, we're going to be getting good coverage on Sky Sports of these guys. So yeah, it's exciting. It really is. And of course, Danny Jacobs, arguably, I know that Eddie Hearn said he's the best middleweight in the world. Arguably, he is. I mean, some people say he beat Golovkin, and everybody knows that Golovkin's the best middleweight in the world. I don't care how you had the Canelo fight scored. The man at 160 is Golovkin. And if he lost that fight to Danny Jacobs, then there's an arguable point. Listen, I'm not saying that he did, because I think that Golovkin won the fight against Jacobs. But for those that think he nicked it, then for me, or for them, he is the best middleweight in the world, isn't he? So, he's definitely up there. That's for sure. But no, it's exciting stuff. He's an exciting fighter. He's the miracle man, and I tell you what, he's a big puncher as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's next for him. I just hope he doesn't fight somebody like Martin Murray. Oh, forget that.
Conrad Cummins has parted ways with Barry McGuigan and trainer Shane McGuigan. Yes,
Conrad Cummins is a man that's he's been in that camp for a while. Obviously, he's got a good relationship with Carl Frampton. It seems to all just be going wrong for Shane McGuigan at the moment. I mean, one minute he was like, one of the best trainers in the world, some people were saying. Some people were saying he was like, sort of, especially like the best young trainer in the world, like a newcomer. He was doing really well. Obviously, he had David Hay, George Groves, Carl Frampton was obviously the main reason, the main kind of thing that established him as a good trainer. Everybody kind of followed suit after Carl Frampton was there. And Comrade Cummings was one of the guys there as well. Obviously, Josh Taylor in that gym as well. And slowly but surely, everybody's just kind of gone. I mean, David Hayes left. Carl Frampton's left. That's his two biggest stars right there. George Groves slightly behind that. Comrade Cummings has gone now as well, so it seems to be a really, really bad time at the moment for Shane McGuigan. But no, listen, he's a good trainer. I'm not doubting what he can do, but these things happen in boxing sometimes. It's all good one moment and all bad the next. So all the best to him and his father Barry, of course.
Badu Jack has vacated his WBA light heavyweight title.
Yes, Badu Jack's vacated the belt. I'm not quite sure why. It doesn't really look good. There's been all sorts of conspiracy theories. There's been things that's come out saying that it was some kind of stipulation in a contract when he fought Nathan Cleverly. I can't really understand that. I hope that we do find out what's gone on there, because it doesn't look good from his perspective. But yeah, he's vacated the title, and what I can't understand is Dimitri Bivol, who's a really good fighter. He should be fighting, in my book, he should be fighting Sullivan Barrera, because Sullivan Barrera's next in line and he's available for that date. But he's completely going mad about it, Barrera. Obviously, his English isn't good. He says everything on Twitter and you can barely understand it. But I really feel sorry for him. And unbelievably, the 11th ranked man in the WBA rankings is an Australian. What's his name again, Ayaz? Is it what's his name again?
Trent Broadhurst.
Yeah, Trent Broadhurst, which is, he's the 11th ranked man. He's an Australian guy. I just don't understand how Bivol is going to be fighting a man ranked at number 11. It just makes no sense. So he's gonna knock that guy out, and that's going to be an easy win for Bivol. But he has been waiting for quite a while. I know he had the interim belt. He might even still have the interim belt actually. But I just can't understand why Sullivan Barrera has not been called up about that. But then at the same time, Andre Ward's just vacated, so that's the super title, and this title I think may be the regular one. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but it's all a bit mad. And hey, it's the WBA, that's all I can say. It's always the WBA in all these weird, confusing situations. It's just always the WBA. So a bit annoying, but I hope that Sullivan Barrera gets what he deserves, because I tell you what, the only man he's lost to is Andre Ward. That man is a really, really, really good fighter as well. So it's sad to see him miss an opportunity, but maybe he'll fight for the super title. I'm not quite sure, but we need to see some kind of announcement from the WBA soon. Otherwise, what are rankings for?
Okay, as you've mentioned the Monaco card, I'm going to announce the fights on that show.
Okay, let's go on. What's on the, obviously Bivol and his guy, what's on the undercard there?
Which, the undercard is Aget Caballero vs Derek Chisora for the European Heavyweight Championship.
Yes, that's a man who's unbeaten. That guy is actually unbeaten, but I think he's got about 12 knockouts in 16 wins, something like that. He's not a big name, but he's a real banana skin. I mean, imagine if he ends up beating Chisora, then that's the end of Chisora for me. So yeah, tricky opponent, really. I don't really see the sense in that fight, but yeah, it's a strange one. But then again, Derek Chisora is a bit strange, so I'm not sure why he's took it, but it is what it is.
Right, Scott Quigg will face Oleg Yefimowicz for the WBA Featherweight World Championship Eliminator.
Yeah, an eliminator there for Scott Quigg. The guy he's fighting, again, is a really poor name. It's an okay fight, I suppose. I think Scott Quigg's gonna probably stop him. I'm not excited for it. It's a boring fight, really, I think.
Jamie McDonald will have a rematch against Libero Solis for the WBA Bantamweight World Championship.
Yes, the rematch is finally happening. It was close last time round. I respect Jamie McDonald a lot for taking that fight. Obviously, some people really and truly were saying that they robbed him and all that stuff. I don't think that was the case. I don't think it was any corruption. I think it was just a bit of a bad decision. It was very close, though, the fight. This is his chance to not to right the wrong, but this is his chance to basically enable himself really to be the clear winner between the two guys. And I think Jamie McDonnell is going to take this fight a lot more seriously than he did the first time round, and I think he's going to win this fight quite clearly, probably a points win for him. But the whole card itself it's not a brilliant card, but it's a nice place. It's a nice place to box, I suppose. Monte Carlo and Liborio Solis. I'm sure he's going to love his second trip in that place. But ultimately, I think all the Brit boys on that card will probably win quite easy.
On the 18th of November on Frampton's undercard, Jamie Conlon will face Joanne Ancajas for the IBF World Super Flyweight Championship.
Yes, on the 18th of November, as you said, there in Belfast, Frampton returns to the ring. His first fight under promoter Frank Warren. We're not quite sure who he's going to be fighting yet. His opponent will be announced probably in the coming weeks, I'm guessing. But it's good to see him fighting again, of course. The guy that he was going to be fighting before, who slipped in the showers, now fighting Abner Mares, so that fight won't be happening, but it's going to be somebody big, I'd imagine. Also on that bill, as you said, on the undercard, Jamie Conlon fights for the IBF World Super Flyweight title against Jerwin Ancajas. That's a really, really good fight. I'm happy as well that Jamie Conlon can get a big fight here in Belfast, and I'm just pleased for him because he's a good fighter, but I kind of feel that he, to a certain degree, he's been fighting these guys who are decent guys, but they're not like world beaters or anything, and he gets in a proper slugfest with them and he gets really busted up. So, I'm happy that he's getting this fight, but I'm just hoping that he can really fight smartly, because we haven't seen much smart fighting from him, and I think he needs to go to a new level to win this belt here. But no, it's happening on a good stage for him. It's going to be on BT Sports, and I'm pleased for him. I really am, because he's actually a really nice kid, Jamie Conlon. Also on that bill, Ayaz, Zolani Tete will be defending his world title too, and Paddy Barnes is on that bill as well. I don't think there's an opponent set up for Paddy Barnes yet. Is there any more news for us, Ayaz?
Finally, Sky Sports have announced 3 international fights that they'll be showing. Right.
Yep, tell us.
But the first one will be Santa Cruz vs Avalos, and on the undercard will be Abner Mares vs Gutierrez.
Yes, Gutierrez, the man that was supposed to face Frampton, he slipped. That's happening on October 14th. Obviously, Leo Santa Cruz is topping that bill, and also on the same night, Jamel Charlo is topping another bill. Both of those cards are going to be getting shown on Sky Sports on the same night, so I'm not quite sure how they're going to do that, because I think they're going to be definitely scheduled at the same kind of time. I'm not sure how they're going to do that, but it should be interesting. Also, we're going to be speaking to a man later on in the show who's on one of those undercards as well.
Yep, and finally, Deontay Wilder's fight against Lewis Ortiz will also be shown on Sky Sports.
Yeah, that one's on November the 4th. That's a brilliant fight. That's a really intriguing fight. I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'm pleased it's been picked up by a UK broadcaster. Obviously, Sky are trying to show all of Deontay Wilder's and Joseph Parker's as well, up until the last one, really. They're trying to show all of their fights to try and get the, Joe Public, as Eddie Hearn would say, I think, Joe Public to tune in, have a look and go, oh yeah, that would be good if they fight Joshua. We'll buy that pay-per-view. So yeah, they're trying to do that with Deontay Wilder. I think it's probably going to happen if he gets through this fight, which is a big if against Lewis Ortiz. Then I reckon Deontay Wilder versus Joshua happens in Wembley Stadium in summer of next year. But that's it for the news, Ayaz, right?
That's it for the news.
Okay, moving over now to the funny named fighter segment. We're going to try to fly through this. I'm not going to mention who the funny named fighters are fighting and where they're fighting and all that stuff, but there's a man fighting this week called David Kiss. That's an okay name. It's not the funniest one. His record 1-5 with 1 draw. Also another man called Justin Blades. That's Justin Blades. He's making his debut against somebody else this week who's also making their debut in a 4-rounder. Moving over now to one in Mexico, a man on that bill called 10K Tsunami. Again, it's not a really funny name, but we thought we'd mention it. Also, a man that I'm sure we've mentioned before, Manny Mamakiao. 11 losses and 1 win with 1 draw. Manny Mamakiao. And the next one, a man, he's 1-0. His name is Rocky Duncan. I quite like that one, Rocky Duncan. Moving over now to another one, a guy on the bill. I'm sure we've mentioned it before. His name is Yang Yang Wang. 1-4 with 1 draw. Yang Yang Wang. Also, there's a guy, and I like this name, Ayaz, I really do. This one is potentially a winner, I think. His name is Super Top Singh Namchai. He's actually fighting for the vacant WBC Youth World Featherweight title. He's 2-0. Super Top Singh Namchai. Remember, take note of these, Ayaz. We're going to decide who's got the best one. This one wins it for me, but I'm actually going to save this one for last. I'm actually going to save this one. What I'm about to say. I'm going to save that one till last. There's a guy fighting in Texas. It's actually on a bill that's being promoted by Roy Jones Jr. His name is Sunday Ajuwa. I think we've mentioned him before. His record 13-2. He takes on a man called John Vera, who's 17-0. Could be a bad one for Sunday there. And also another name to mention, Young Bin Park. Young Bin Park. That's 2-0 with 1 draw, his record. I think there's another one on that bill as well, if I'm not mistaken. No, maybe not. And I think it's coming down to the last couple now. There's a guy called Money Pal the Fourth. Money Pal the Fourth. I think that's like a generation of guys called Money Pal. His record 3-0. There's also a guy called Jin Bum Kim. Literally, Jin Bum Kim. He's making his debut as well. And there's another one called Gift Bolo. Gift Bolo. He hasn't been given a gift. He actually got beat on points this week. His record 4-5 now. Also, a man on there called Joseph Cole as well. That's just like the footballer Joe Cole. It was shortened to the footballer, but yeah, this man's Joseph Cole. And now the funniest one, and this wins it for me. I mean, you may have a different opinion, but there's actually a guy here. His record 6-2. He gets the win. Even though he's fighting in the 6th round of this week, this guy gets the win just for this name. This guy's name, and I swear to God, the listeners are not going to believe me. This guy's an Oriental boxer, and his name is Chokondong. Chokondong. That is his name. I'm not joking. Honestly, people listening now, look him up. I'm not joking. Chokondong. Is that the funniest name one for you?
Yes, it is.
It's got to be. It's got to be Chokondong. Right, moving over now to the previewing. Finally, we're onto the last talking point of the show. Moving over now, this one's actually happening later today, Thursday the 28th of September. One fight happening in the Montreal Casino in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Oscar Rivas, 20-0, good amateur he was. He's fighting for the vacant NABF heavyweight title against Carl Davis Drummond, whose record is 31-4. Oscar Rivas is a man that, you know, I'm happy that he's fighting for a title now, but I want to see him stepped up a little bit, but a good fighter, him. He's the Colombian based in Canada, that guy. Anything else on the undercard? No, not really. Moving over now to one fight happening this weekend. I think it might be on the Friday. It's at the Tolworth Recreation Centre in Tolworth, London. Heavyweight Nick Webb. He's on this bill. His opponent yet to be announced. He's in a 6th rounder. His record 11-0. Looking to move to 12, of course. Friend of the show, Nick Webb as well. I like that guy. Also on that bill, John Joe Nevin as well. He's been out the ring for quite a while. His record 8-0. He's in a 6th rounder against a to-be-announced opponent. Also, moving over now to the Arena Riga in Riga, Latvia. This one is a Sauerland event. This is part of the World Boxing Super Series tournament. Well, not too much on the undercard, but what I will mention, the former WBO Cruiserweight World Champion Krzysztof Glowacki, his record 27-1, that one lost to Alexander Usyk. He takes on a man called Leonardo Damian Bruzezi, whose record is 18-3. That's a 10-rounder. I really like Glowacki. He's actually a really good fighter, but he just couldn't deal with the awkwardness and the movement of Usyk that night. Also on that bill, the main event now for the WBC World Cruiserweight title. This is part of the Cruiserweight sector of the World Boxing Super Series tournament. Maris Bridis, 22-0, Ayaz, takes on Mike Perez. Obviously, we know Mike Perez is down at Cruiserweight now, looking absolutely ripped. His record 22-2 with 1 draw. This is a brilliant fight. This really is. I really can't call a winner. I don't know if you want to call one, Ayaz, or do you just want to sit on the fence with me? I think that's a brilliant fight. I forgot it was happening this week. That's really
I think that's
good.
a very good fight. Sorry, Mike Perez, yes? Oh, I think
Mike Perez, yeah, he's taking on Maris Bridis.
Oh, I think that's a very, I think it's 50-50 fight. But I'm going to have to sit on the fence for that because I'm not really quite sure about that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm sitting on the fence with splinters in me behind. Moving over now to Puerto Rico in the Coliseo Rafael Amalbert in Juncos. This is right mouthful that. Juan Manuel Lopez, 35-5, takes on Jason Velez, 25-4 with one draw. Juan Manuel Lopez, obviously former world champion, big puncher. It's a 12-rounder, no belt on the line, but we've got to mention that one. That should be a decent fight, I suppose. Jason Velez, a guy that's kind of fouled on the big stage a little bit, so I think it's probably a tailor-made opponent really for Juan Manuel Lopez, even at this point in his career. Moving over now to Sweden, one fight to mention over there, Anthony Yigit, 19-0 with one draw. That's the guy who beat up Lenny Dawes quite convincingly. He's a really good fighter, by the way. He puts his EBU European super lightweight title on the line against Sandor Martin, whose record is 29-1. I can't remember who he lost to, but he's actually a decent fighter, Sandor Martin. So it's going to be really interesting to see that fight unfold, see who wins that one. But I really rate Yigit. Also, moving over now to the Borough Hall in Hartlepool, County Durham, United Kingdom. Abigail Medina, 17-3 with two draws, puts his EBU European title on the line. It's the super bantamweight version against our very own Martin Ward, 25-3 with one draw. All the very best to Martin Ward. That's not Martin J. Ward, that's just Martin Ward. Moving over now to the Echo Arena, Liverpool. A couple of fights to mention on this bill. It's not a great card, this one, Ayaz. I know it's going to be on Sky this weekend, but I'm really not that into it. Remember, get your predictions ready. Natasha Jonas fights a 4-rounder. That's 4 2-minute rounds against a woman called Bohana. I think it's Bohana or Bojana Libizuska, whose record is 5-24. Natasha Jonas obviously 1-0. Derek Chisora, 26-7, fights this weekend in a 6-rounder against Marios Kolias, whose record is 3-1 with one draw. That's a poor fight. I know that Derek Chisora is fighting for the European title, in that Monte Carlo show in a few weeks' time. But come on, man, this guy's 3-1 with one draw. The only thing I will say is of his 3 wins, he's won all 3 of them by knockout, so hopefully he can punch a little bit. It's only a 6-rounder, but like the best opponent that he took on was a guy who only had 1 win. His record was 1-0. That's his best opponent. Apart from that, he's took on guys with losing records, and he's took on guys who haven't even got a single win on their record. So, it's going to be an easy win for Chisora. He's going to probably knock the guy out and, turn a few heads thinking that he's some kind of rejuvenated version of himself. Don't fall for that one. Also on the bill, Scott Fitzgerald, 7-0. He's in a 6-rounder against Bradley Price, 38-23. That's a good step up there for Scott Fitzgerald. Also on the bill, Anthony Fowler. His record 2-0. He takes on Jay Byrne in a 6-rounder. Jay Byrne 5-2. Jay Byrne, he's never been stopped. In those 2 losses, he lost to Felix Cash on points and he lost to Josh Kelly on points. So Anthony Fowler trying to make a little bit of a statement there, I'd imagine. Also on the bill, Tom Farrell, 13-0, takes on O'Hara Davis, 15-1. This one's for the WBA International Super Lightweight title. If I'm not mistaken, that's Tom Farrell's belt. Ayaz, we were talking about this one earlier on in the week. We want to hear your prediction on this one. Tom Farrell and O'Hara Davis. I've gone with O'Hara Davis to win by knockout. While you're saying your prediction, I just want to quickly gather our listeners' prediction. Okay. How do you see the...
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go for O'Hara Davis knockout as well. I'm going to go with a 5th-round knockout.
Okay, you don't really have to be as specific to actually choose a round, but you're going with a knockout. I'm going to go with a knockout. Our listeners also believe that O'Hara Davis will win by a stoppage, so all of us, me, you, and the listeners are going with Davies by KO. Moving up the bill once again, Sean Dodd, 14-2 with one draw, fights Tom Stalker, 12-2 with 3 draws. That one's for the Commonwealth lightweight title. How do you see that one going, Ayaz? That's a fight that, again, we've predicted. I've asked our listeners as well. Who do you see winning that one? Sean Masha Dodd and Tom Stalker?
I think Sean Masha Dodd will win that on points.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, well, I've gone with Tom Stalker to win on points, and our listeners have gone with Tom Stalker to win on points as well, so that'll be interesting. There's a split there. Also, I mean, this is a bad card in my opinion. I mean, there's no fight on here really that I'm really looking forward to, apart from maybe O'Hara's fight, just about. That'll actually be the good fight, but aside from that, I mean, I'm going to watch it, obviously, being a boxing fan, but it's really not it's really not getting me too excited. Also on the bill, Paul Butler 24-1 takes on Stuart Hall 21-5 with 2 draws. It's a 12-rounder. This one, no belt on the line. Of course, they fought for a title before. This time round, they're both a little bit older. They've took a little bit more punishment, and there's no belt on the line. And of course, it's happening this Saturday. Who do you see winning that one? Paul Butler and Stuart Hall in the rematch, Ayaz?
I think Paul Butler will win that on points.
Yeah, me too. I've gone with him on points, and so have our listeners. So we can't be split on that one. And the final one to mention on this bill, Rocky Fielding 24-1 takes on David Brophy 19-1 with 1 draw. The Commonwealth super middleweight title and the British super middleweight titles, both on the line there. 12-round fight. It's a decent fight, you know. David Brophy's only loss obviously come to George Groves. Rocky Fielding's only loss come to Callum Smith. Both men were stopped in those losses. Both men are not really big bangers in my opinion. I mean, Rocky Fielding, he does know how to take people out, but at a good level, he's kind of, you can't really get rid of him. So it seems at a good level. I like both guys, but no, David Brophy's just come off that really good win on the road, if I'm not mistaken, the fight where he was supposed to lose it, and he pulled off a great win. I like David Brophy, man. I know he's been sparring with Frank Buglioni earlier this week, or just at the back end of last week, but no, that should be a decent fight. How do you see that one going, Ayaz? Rocky Fielding or David Brophy?
I'm going to go for Rocky Fielding win on points.
Yeah, I am going with Fielding to win on points as well, but our listeners have actually gone with Fielding to win by knockout. So yeah, we've been split on that. So the listeners going with a Fielding knockout, me and you, Ayaz, going with a Fielding points win. It's funny because on the poll that we asked, our actual listeners, the second most voted outcome was Brophy to win on points. So they actually believe if Fielding doesn't win by knockout, then Brophy will win on points. So interesting stuff. Right, that's it from the Echo Arena in Liverpool, Merseyside, United Kingdom. Moving over now to the House of Blues in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. One fight to mention, really good friend of the show and myself, Mr. Spike O'Sullivan, Gary O'Sullivan, of course. He's in a 10-rounder against Nick Quigley. Nick Quigley 15-2, Spike O'Sullivan 25-2. Should be a really good fight there. I'm wishing Gary Spike O'Sullivan all the very best, of course. A good friend of the show, big puncher as well, exciting when he wants to be. There's one fight to mention before we wrap up the previewing and ultimately do all the talking. And it's basically happening next week. It's happening on the 3rd of October. It's actually happening next Tuesday. So by the time the show goes out next Tuesday, the fight would have already happened. Devon Alexander returns to the ring after about 2 years out. He's in a 10-round fight. His record 26-4. He takes on Walter Castillo, who's 26-4 as well, with 1 draw. I tell you what, Walter Castillo is a really good fighter, by the way. He's only lost to good guys. If Devon Alexander's not on his A game, and I can't see him being on his A game after this really long layoff, this could be a big upset. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1 in the US, and it's not going to be getting shown in the UK. I'm not quite sure where it's even happening. It just says it's happening in the USA. There's no venue yet, so I'm a little bit sceptical of it, the whole thing even taking place. But that's a hard comeback fight there for Devon Alexander. And that really wraps up the previewing. We've done it all now. We've done the Funny Name Fighter segment, which I always like doing. A really good name this week as well. Fantastic winner. We did the news. There was a lot to go over there. There was a lot to go over in the review part of the show. We tried to whiz through the previewing as quick as we could. I'm very sorry if it's been long-winded. It's been another long and informative show, I'd like to think. And it's now time, before we wrap up part 2, there's one last thing to do. You know what that is. It's, of course, to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former 2012 U.S. Olympian and unbeaten professional with a record of 20-0. It's, of course, Mr. Terrell Gausha. Terrell, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, my man.
Hey, it's my pleasure, my man. So, Terrell, first things first, it's your debut appearance on this show. I want to ask you, just so our listeners get a bit of a backstory about you, how did you get into boxing in the very first place? If I'm not mistaken, you were 12 when you started to fight, right?
I actually was 10 when I first got to the gym. Yeah, and I had my first fight. Yep. But to be honest, the way I got into boxing, when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of ESPN classics. I seen Muhammad Ali, and I wanted to be the champion of the world. So I found a gym. I went in there, and everything else is history.
And obviously, you were a decorated amateur. You made it to the 2012 Olympics, as I said. Do you remember your amateur record at all?
Yes, I think I was. I had 176 amateur fights, I believe, and I know I lost either 16 or 18, and I won about 150 something.
Excellent. And obviously, you fought a few good guys in the amateurs. Who would you say is the best guy you fought in the amateurs, Terrell?
It's a few of them. One of the guys that gave me my biggest challenge at amateurs was Jesse Hart. We fought twice, 2 close fights. I ended up winning both of them, but another guy was Caleb Plant. And we had a good fight in 2012 Olympic trials. Yeah, I won by 2 points in that fight, but it was a good fight.
Yeah. No, okay. I thought you was going to say Jesse Hart, because we actually had him on the show a few weeks ago, and he sounds like he's still not quite got to grips with the loss. He's like, no, it's not fair. But
I don't. You know me, man. We in the pros now. I take my hat off to him. Best of luck to him. It is nothing personal with me. I won both times, and it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Unlucky to him though. He obviously fought for a world title on the weekend just gone, and came up just a little bit short. Right, since turning pro, Terrell, or even before turning pro, I just really wanted to ask you this: what big names that we might have heard of have you sparred with?
Okay. Well, I sparred with Kid Chocolate.
Peter
I
Quillen.
sparred with him. Yeah, Peter Quillen. I sparred with Hassan and Dom.
Oh yeah, big friend of the show.
Yeah. I sparred with so many guys. I sparred with David Benavidez a while back. Big guy. I sparred with Sudo Ramirez, the guy that just won the championship. I mean, the guy that just defended his title against Jesse Hart.
Yeah.
The list goes on, and I can't even name them. I sparred some good guys out here in California.
Wow, man, that's an impressive list there. Just Hassan and Dan, by the way, he's a lovely guy, you know.
Yeah, he's a real good guy. I learned a lot sparring with him, and also Peter Quillen. Really took advantage of them experiences.
Yeah, excellent, man, excellent. So, as a pro, you're under the tutelage of Manny Robles, that's right?
Yes, sir.
And that gym at the moment is thriving. You've got yourself in the gym. Who's in there beside yourself? I know you got Oscar Valdez, Michael Conlon.
Yes, we got Oscar Valdez, Michael Conlon. We got Vyacheslav Zabrowski. He's fighting Kovalev November 11th. We got so many guys, man. It's crazy. We got Dominic Brazil, also 2012 Olympian. We have Manny Robles, his son. He's undefeated. It's hard to name him, man. Emilio Sanchez, he's 16-0. Yeah, that's just some of the names. It's still more.
Yeah, it's a brilliant gym at the moment. It's really thriving in there. So on to your pro career now, Terrell. As I said, up until this point, you've compiled a perfect record, 20-0. Along the way, you've beaten some good guys, but undoubtedly, you're in the toughest test of your life come October 14th, where you take on a man that many people believe is the best fighter at 154. That man, of course, is Erislandy Lara. His WBA Super and IBO World titles will be on the line. Firstly, Terrell, what do you make of Erislandy Lara as a fighter?
Well, to be honest, I feel like I like the challenge because I do believe that he's the top at 154, one of the top guys. I wouldn't necessarily say he's the best because obviously I want to prove that I'm the best, you know. But I've seen him in the ring. I've watched him for a while. And he always put out a good performance. And my job is to go out there. When I go out there and beat him, that'll say so much about me, and it open up bigger fights for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking down at your pro record, I struggled to find many southpaw opponents, apart from one that you stopped in the first round back in 2014. And I'd imagine that's not the most ideal preparation for not only a world level southpaw, but one as good as Lara.
Yeah, but you know something. I have the experience to spar with so many southpaws, and I have a lot of experience with southpaws myself. With the extensive amateur background, mostly everybody from the foreign countries come in southpaw, whether they naturally southpaw or they just train to fight that way. So yeah, I haven't fought many southpaws besides that one, and but I feel like the sparring alone get me ready for him, in my experience.
Yeah, no, I thought you'd say something like that. That's a smart answer there. I want to shed light on one factor in this fight. Obviously, I've got no idea what your game plan is, but looking at it from an educated point of view, you're a boxer, he's a boxer. He's only lost 2 fights, both by decision. I believe you've possibly got the power to potentially knock him out, but I think you've probably got more chance outboxing him over 12. Now, one thing that goes in your favour is that he's only boxed 4 rounds in the last 17 months. In that time, you've boxed 20 rounds. Do you view that as an advantage going in, or is that just a load of nonsense?
To be honest, my honest opinion, I don't look at it like that. I feel as though I'm gonna be ready for the best Lara come fight night, because obviously he's the champion, and he wants to keep his belt, and I'm the challenger, and I'm hungry. I want to take his belt, so I'm always looking for him to be prepared. I've trained my hardest I ever trained in my life, and I feel like I'm more prepared than I ever been, even my whole career.
And there's some other brilliant fights on the bill. I was saying the other day that this card of boxing should just be called the best of 154. Obviously, the WBA Super, the WBC, the IBF, and the IBO belts are all at stake in one evening on one card. I'm so happy also to see Jarrett Hurd defending his title against Austin Trout. We had Austin on this show a couple of months back talking about that fight. He's a great fight. How do you see that one unfolding in your opinion?
To be honest, I don't even want to make it no opinions about this fight, because I got, like you said, I have a tough fight on my hands. I need to worry about getting this guy Lara belt, and whoever made the best man win between them guys. We got Charlo and Lubin, we got Jarrett Hurd and Austin Trout, obviously. All of them is a 50-50 chance any guy can win.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Charlo and Lubin fight, but if you don't want to, pick a winner, that's completely fine. Right,
no, I can't.
That's fine, man. That's fine. But another great fight. There's 3 brilliant fights here on one weight class on one night. A question now, Terrell, that I like to throw at all the boxers we speak to from overseas. I want to put you on the spot a little bit here. Who would you say is your favourite UK fighter from any era? They can be way retired, they can still be active now, any era.
UK fighter, I would like to say my guy that beat Roy Jones, the southpaw. I forget his name.
Joe Kawasaki?
Joe Kawasaki, I like him. I like Joe Kawasaki.
Yeah, that's a popular answer. He's definitely one of our best. Definitely one of our best, man. Right, Terrell, just before I let you go now, I've run out of questions pretty much. Anything that you want to say at all before we let you go to any of your UK fans over here? Obviously, UK fans have got a good reputation, and believe me, they know who you are over here already. For sure.
Like, I got a lot UK fans that reach out to me on social media, that's followed me ever since the Olympics. I want to say, I appreciate you guys that's keeping the boxing alive. I'm going to go out there and put out my best performance, and hopefully I get a lot of more UK fans, and I just appreciate you guys for reaching out to me.
Absolutely, my friend. Okay, listen, it's been a pleasure interviewing you, Mr. Terrell Gausha. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time, and God willing, next time we speak, I'll be speaking to the new WBA World Champion.
For sure, my man. Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, and that wraps up episode 102 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Summer has been Ayaz Summer. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the heavyweight nice guy Dave Allen and USA's 2012 Olympian and soon-to-be world title challenger, Mr. Terrell Gausha. The Prediction League currently stands at 3 points for me, 2 points for Ayaz and 1 point for our listeners. Best of luck with this weekend's picks though, as there are 4 points at stake. A big thank you as always to our listeners that make this show what it is. Without you guys it would not be worth it. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we'll see you next week.